If Earth could send us a bill, you've been running a tab your entire life. So have your parents, your grandparents, every human who has ever walked on this planet. And not one of you has ever been sent an invoice until now. What you're about to see is Earth's bill. 7 line items, every number verified, every figure calculated by economists and scientists who spent years trying to price what nobody has ever paid for. The total is bigger than everything humanity has ever produced, combined. Line item 01, $125 trillion per year. The master invoice, Earth earns more than all of humanity, combined. In 1997, a team of economists sat down and tried to do something that had never been done before. They wanted to calculate what it would actually cost to replace everything Earth does for free: clean water, breathable air, flood control, soil that grows food, the living machinery behind every single thing humans depend on to survive. Their number came back at $33 trillion per year. In 2014, they recalculated. The updated number was $125 trillion per year. For context, every country, every company, every factory, every person on Earth together produces about $100 trillion in goods and services per year. That is the total output of all of human civilization. Earth out-earns us by 25%. The World Economic Forum estimates that over $44 trillion of global GDP depends moderately or highly on nature. If Earth's systems stop tomorrow, those industries don't slow down, they disappear overnight. Agriculture, banking, insurance, medicine, gone. And here is the part that is almost impossible to process. Not one government on Earth officially counts natural capital as an asset on a national balance sheet. Not one. Earth has been doing $125 trillion worth of work every single year for billions of years, and the entire accounting profession has been recording exactly zero. Line item 02, $1 trillion per year, whale pump, ocean fertilization and carbon management. Here is something almost nobody knows. Whale poop is one of the most important substances on the planet. When great whales dive deep, eat krill and surface to breathe, they release enormous iron-rich clouds of waste at the surface. That waste acts as fertilizer for the entire ocean. It feeds phytoplankton, tiny organisms that produce 50% of all the oxygen on Earth and absorb 37 billion tons of CO2 every year. That is the equivalent of 4 Amazon rainforests absorbing carbon, powered by whale waste. An IMF economist named Ralph Chammy calculated what each great whale is worth in ecosystem services. The number came back at $2 million per whale. He rechecked it, then he started crying at his desk. Together, the world's great whales generate over $1 trillion in value annually. When they die naturally, their bodies sink to the ocean floor and lock stored carbon down there for centuries. This is a carbon storage service humans cannot build, cannot buy, and have never paid for. Between 1900 and 1999, we killed 3 million of them during the commercial whaling era. Every single year, 300,000 more die tangled in fishing nets. Another 20,000 from ship strikes. Total, $1 trillion per year. Payments received, 0. Line item 03, $69.4 billion per year. Vulture biohazard disposal. The most documented proof of what nature does for free. In 1994, a cheap drug called diclofenac began spreading across India. Farmers used it on their cows, it worked on the cows. What it did to everything else took 10 years to fully understand. India had 50 million vultures. Within a decade, 95% of them were dead. The fastest collapse of any bird species in recorded history. But here is the part that nobody talks about. Those vultures weren't just birds. They were a national sanitation infrastructure that had been operating without a single payment for millions of years. A single vulture can consume an entire cow carcass in under 45 minutes. Its stomach acid is so powerful it destroys anthrax, botulism, and rabies on contact. Diseases that would spread for weeks through any other scavenger are neutralized, completely gone. When the vultures disappeared, feral dogs filled the gap. Dogs don't have acid like that. They don't destroy disease. They carry it. India's feral dog population exploded by 5 million almost immediately. Then came the bites, 38 million additional dog bites between 2000 and 2006. Then came the deaths. A peer-reviewed study published in 2024 found that the all-cause death rate rose 4.7% in high vulture loss districts across India. That figure translates to approximately 104,000 additional deaths per year. India is now the global center of rabies, a disease that was largely under control when the vultures were alive. Total economic damage, $69.4 billion per year. Over the study period alone, approaching $350 billion in total losses. From a bird. India banned veterinary diclofenac in 2006, 12 years after the collapse began. By then, the damage was permanent. The drug is still being used in parts of Africa and Asia. This is not a theory about what nature is worth. It is a controlled experiment run by accident with a body count and an invoice. Line item, total, $69.4 billion per year, still accumulating. Line item, 04, $1,113 per inch, lost topsoil, a million-year savings account, currently overdrawn. The thin, dark layer on top of the ground grows almost all the food on Earth. Nature takes between 100 and 500 years to build a single inch of it. Right now, we are losing it 10 to 40 times faster than it forms. A 2026 study calculated the replacement cost of 1 inch of lost topsoil, $1,113 per acre in nutrients alone. That number covers only the minerals. It doesn't count the living network inside it, the fungi, bacteria, and earthworms that form a structure no fertilizer on Earth can recreate. 1 tablespoon of healthy topsoil contains more living microorganisms than there are human beings on this planet. Iowa alone has lost an average of 6.8 inches since 1850. That is the era of the U.S. Civil War. In geological terms, it happened yesterday. It is not coming back. Soil erosion costs the United States $37.6 billion every year in agricultural productivity. Europe loses another $20 billion. The Dust Bowl of the 1930s, when millions of acres of American farmland turned to desert, was caused by 20 years of poor farming. It was a warning. We've been running the same experiment at a larger scale for over 70 years. Line item 05. $43 to $70 trillion. Overdue. Permafrost. 12,000 years of free carbon storage. Now expiring. For longer than human civilization has existed, the Arctic's frozen ground has been acting as a refrigerator, locking ancient dead plants and animals underground, storing carbon that would otherwise rot and release into the atmosphere, holding it there, frozen, for thousands of years, for free, not once sending a bill. The total carbon stored in permafrost, 1,700 gigatons, more than 5 times the entire amount of carbon humanity has emitted across all of recorded industrial history, stored in frozen ground for free. The Arctic is now warming at twice the global average rate. The permafrost is thawing. A Nature climate change study estimated the economic damage of that carbon release at $43 trillion. A follow-up paper raises the figure to $70 trillion. That number exceeds the combined GDP of Europe and the United States. Once the methane and CO2 begin escaping, they warm the atmosphere. Warmer temperatures thaw more permafrost. More permafrost releases more carbon. Scientists call this a tipping point. There is no known technology capable of stopping it once it accelerates. The only available intervention was reducing emissions before the thaw began. Line item 06, $3 trillion plus per year. Ocean carbon capture, free planetary industrial service, beginning to fail. Right now, the ocean is running a planetary-scale operation on your behalf. Every second of every day, it absorbs roughly 30% of all the CO2 that humans release into the atmosphere. Silently, continuously. without being asked. The best technology humans have built to do this same job is called direct air capture. It costs between $600 and $1,000 per ton of CO2. It requires enormous amounts of electricity. It currently operates at a tiny fraction of the scale needed to matter. The ocean does it for free, at planetary scale. A 2023 CSIRO study priced this service at over $3 trillion per year. But between 2004 and 2014, despite rising global emissions, the ocean's absorption rate declined. The service is slowing. Every fraction of efficiency loss translates directly into more CO2 in the atmosphere and faster warming for everyone alive on this planet. Ocean acidification is already the down payment. Absorbing this much CO2 has made the ocean 40% more acidic since the pre-industrial era. Coral skeletons are dissolving. Shellfish are struggling to form shells. Fish respiration is being disrupted at scale. The ocean has been paying our carbon bill for 2 centuries. It's starting to run out of credit. Line item 07. $153 billion per year. Insect pollination. Free food delivery. Actively collapsing. Every almond, apple, avocado, strawberry, blueberry, cherry, coffee bean, chocolate bar, and cucumber you have ever eaten exists because a small flying insect showed up and did something for free. Researchers calculated the total value of that service, $153 billion per year, nearly 10% of the entire value of the world's food supply, delivered by insects for nothing. Almonds are 100% dependent on bees. There is no substitute, no technology, no workaround. No bee means no almond, not fewer almonds, none. In Meoxian County, China, this stopped being theoretical years ago. Pesticide use wiped out the local bee population entirely. Farmers now hand-pollinate apple and pear trees using small brushes. Teams of workers spend days doing what bees once did in hours. This is already happening, right now. Insect populations globally have declined 25 to 40% in recent decades. 1/3 of managed honeybee colonies in the United States die every single winter. Wild species are falling even faster. We spend $2 billion per year globally on pesticides directly linked to colony collapse. $2 billion. Systematically dismantling a $153 billion service. So here it is. Earth's invoice. $125 trillion per year in services. None of it on any balance sheet. A whale system running a $1 trillion ocean engine on poop and slow deaths. 50 million vultures quietly keeping 500,000 people alive, removed for a cheap painkiller. 1 million years of topsoil thinning faster than anyone is measuring. A 12,000-year carbon freezer starting to open. A $3 trillion ocean carbon machine beginning to slow. And $153 billion in food delivery being quietly cancelled by a $2 billion product. Earth has never sent a late notice. It has never cut off service without a warning first. It has simply kept working for billions of years, while we treated it like a subscription nobody ever signed up for. The bill exists whether we open it or not. And if you think this is the most expensive thing happening on this planet without anyone noticing, there's one more story we didn't get to today, and the number will make this entire invoice look like a rounding error.